Hey guys, Dr. Alex here, Punch Doctor, CEO of Punching Power, and today I want to take a look at Earnie Shavers. Ernie was a huge power puncher, and I dug up some quality footage of him to look at. The first thing you're going to notice is that Shavers is a thick boy.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy, that's a thick-ass boy!
He isn't huge, however, he is wide, has big bones and long arms for his size, and he also has loose, relaxed muscles. When a muscle is relaxed, it can contract more than if it's tight, and that is potentially one of the reasons for Ernie's success. Ernie also uses the mechanics I talk about for a lot of his punches, which is another reason he was such a devastating puncher. If you're new to this channel, I highly suggest you watch my Kinetic Integrated Mechanics reference video. I'm going to be going over some concepts in this video you may not have heard of, including the 4 punch phases, kinetic chains, and the stretch shortening cycle. I go over all these concepts and more in my reference video, so I highly recommend you watch the reference video first so you can get as much as possible out of this video. Additionally, if you want to maximize your own punching power, check out my program, The Power Punching Blueprint. The Power Punching Blueprint is an A to Z program designed to rebuild and reprogram your mechanics from the ground up to use all the techniques these natural punchers use automatically. I guarantee my program will increase your speed and power and help you reach your maximum potential in the sport. If you'd like to learn more, check out howtopunchharder.com today. Let's get into the clips. Let's first take a look at Earnie Shavers versus Ken Norton. Now we're going to see Ernie throw a compact short left hook, and I want you to see his hips start to turn as his arm is moving backwards. Now what that does, as some of you may know, it stretches all those crossbody chains between the hip and the arm. We'll watch it again. Hip starts to turn as the arm comes back, stretching those chains so they're able to contract, starting right there, fully for more emphatic contraction and a faster acceleration. We'll look at it one more time. And it looks like Ernie even picks up the contraction a little bit earlier than I would expect. You know, it's versatile. Right there, he picks it up. And it lands quite hard. You can see it snap Ken's head to the side. And he follows it up with a big uppercut right here. We'll take a look at as well. Now you're going to see Ernie's weight come down right here before he throws the uppercut. The weight comes down, and then he straightens out his lower back. It looks as if he's in a flexed position right here. But in a flexed position, as I went over in my squat video, you're not going to be able really to recruit the glutes as well as possible, as well as you possibly can. So look at his hips right now. Go from this position to that position. So he goes from flexed spine, from what appears to be flexed spine, to an extended spine. And what that does, it stretches the glutes, it stretches the hamstrings, and it's going to allow them to explode with contraction, to turn the hips, turn the torso, and power the uppercut. Now we'll take a look at his hips and his arm individually right here, but you'll see his arm come down, right? His elbow is extending. Everything's able to contract and accelerate right there until impact. Here's another excellent example of an uppercut by Shavers, and you're going to see his hips start to rotate forward while his arm is coming down and back, increasing the stretch in those crossbody chains that he can then contract on for a very fast and powerful uppercut. Let's take a look. You're going to see his arm come back and his hips rotate forward as it's coming back. I'm going to go back, I'm going to go forward and then back a couple times so you see it. So that hip comes forward as that arm is coming back. Arm picks up the contraction right here. Everything accelerates. And look how fast it goes. Very fast. And it lands too. Now I want to show you this cross that misses. However, it's a really good example of a powerful cross with hip torque. Now from the side, we weren't really able to see the hip torque that Ernie's creating with his cross, with his right hand. However, we can really see it clearly here, and I want to point it out. So you're going to see his weight come down, load, explode, accelerate, follow through, as I say. His arm is coming back, his weight is coming down. And look right there, you can see the hips rotate. Now everything follows. And it's a clear cross. It doesn't really land that well. However, I wanted to point that out as a good example of creating hip torque, hip rotation, powering everything else. We'll watch it one more time. Weight's coming down. Tissues are relaxing. That hip is driven forward, exploding off the ground, causing a stretch in the crossbody kinetic chains, a contraction there. You'll see the torso rotating and the arm. Arm keeps going. Load, explode with the hips, acceleration. Impact would be right about there. And then you can see the follow through. If Earnie landed, it would have been devastating. Here I want to show you a very fast uppercut that Earnie throws with a ton of acceleration. We'll watch it in full speed and then we'll watch it frame by frame. So very fast and it lands. I'm not sure that you caught that, but I'll slow it down here and we'll watch it again. Now you'll notice that Earnie throws it like a spiral. It's almost like a hook, except he's bent to the side. And this was one of the hardest or weirdest things for me to conceptualize when I was going through my own development of my own punch mechanics, right? That the uppercut is powered by hip rotation. And hopefully it clicks faster for you than it does for me. But let's look at this one. And you're going to see Earnie rotate his hips. See that? Rotating the hips, which rotates the torso. And look at the acceleration that he creates in his arm right here. Just a few frames, it goes from here to there, and he lands. Now let's look at it all together. His weight is coming down with his arm, it's stretching. Right about there, it reaches peak stretch, and right here, it starts picking up the contraction, and then it lands. It's just very fast. He accelerates very quickly. I just wanted to point that out. Here's another big uppercut that Earnie throws to end the fight. Let me back it up here. And you'll see how fast this one is too, with a big old spiral, not a linear push, right? It's like an oblique hook, the way that Shavers throws it, which is the way that most of these guys get power in their uppercut, using hip rotation and all the fundamental principles I talk about. Load, explode, accelerate, follow through, stretch shortening cycle with his kinetic chains. One of Shavers' big limitations is his poor jab, and he's very heavy on his feet. Now you can punch hard and still be able to move well, as we've seen a lot. Shavers has a lot of power, and against the lower tier fighters, he was able to absolutely dominate. But against the highest tier, he had a lot of trouble with. I would put him in the range of a Shannon Briggs, like for a more recent style fighter. Great knockout power, contender power, right? Contender skill, but just not really a great. And you'll see if you watch some of these Shavers fights, he lacks jab, he lacks mobility against the guys who are really good boxers and able to adapt. So he's not like exactly a one-trick pony. His power does carry him a lot. He has good boxing skills, but not highest echelon. And that ultimately costs him the success that he didn't really realize in the ring. The ultimate success of reigning world champions and, multiple title holders. As you can see here, with his poor jab. He doesn't snap it out. He doesn't use hip turn to power it. He's still able to get off big shots. However, against someone like Larry Holmes, Muhammad Ali, even guys like Jerry Quarry and Tex Cobb, not quite at that level. Like he's a Shannon Briggs style fighter, maybe like Hasim Rahman style. Someone along those lines. David Tua. Just missing that extra little bit of skill that the very top echelon have. Let's take a look at Ernie's mechanics here for an overhand right. And you'll see after my cross overhand video how it fits in the whole cross overhand archetype. There's lateral side bending and rotation. And because of Ernie's distance from Larry, it's necessarily an overhand and not a cross. If he was closer, he wouldn't have had to extend so much and to loop his arm quite so much. However, Larry's moving backwards, and in order to reach him, he's got to loop and he's got to extend. So degree of the loop determines whether it's an overhand or a cross. And if it's just a slight loop, you know it's more of a cross, as you've seen in this video. And if it's less of a loop, it's more a cross, as you've seen previously in this video. So there's a load, as in load phase, explode, rotation and lateral side bending of the body to stretch those chains between his arm and his torso, acceleration, impact, and follow through. Not the cleanest impact. I'm sure it did not land exactly where Earnie wanted. However, it's a good example of overhand mechanics. Load, arms coming back as the body comes down, explode, creating stretch between the arm and the torso, acceleration, impact, and there would be some follow through, it just didn't land that clean. Here's a good example of a cross from Earnie that lands and does some damage to Ali. And you can see by that facial expression, he's pretending like it didn't bother him, but it almost certainly did. Let's take a look at it in slow-mo. So you're going to see Shavers' kind of poor jab come out here a couple times. Ali counters successfully here, however, does not interrupt Shavers enough to disrupt the cross that's coming. And you can see Shavers is already in a coiled position here. His tissues are loaded. And here you can see the explosion. That hip is coming forward, which inherently stretches the crossbody kinetic chains with the hip extension. And now everything is going to come behind that. It nails Ali in the jaw and gets him moving backwards. And it certainly bothers him. It was a good shot. We'll take a look at it one more time. Ernie's weight is down. He pushes forward with his hip. Ernie's arm is already starting to go forward, so there's not a whole lot of lag with Earnie. You can look at him, you can see that he's pretty relaxed. His muscles are not tight. He looks like his tissues are not tense, right, in the ring, which is a huge benefit. Probably one of the reasons he's able to punch pretty hard. And you can see everything coming now behind that forward hip explosion. There's lateral side bending and rotation, inherent with the cross. Nice impact and follow through. And he's got all that weight coming forward too that he's pushed forward. So the weight transfer is huge for Earnie. You can see how that weight, look at his body position here compared to there. It continues going forward. So he's got weight behind that punch. Big shot. We're going to take a look at a huge body shot by Earnie here against Ali after he sort of smothers himself by being too close with a couple of other shots. A little too close with those, but a big body shot right there. Now let's take a look at this. We're going to see some of the principles that I talk about. Hips moving first while the arm is moving backwards to create cross-body stretch. You're going to see his knee turn in a lot, which makes me think he picks up his left heel. However, Ali moves to the right, creating an opportunity for Earnie to land another hook. Despite turning in with his knee, he's still in a position to land another hook because of Ali's movement. If Ali was still in front of him, it would have been more difficult. We'll go frame by frame here. You'll see Earnie lower his center of gravity and then begin to push off with his left leg. And you can see that hip going forward as his arm moves back. Then everything starts coming forward. So that stretch has been contracted on, creating rapid acceleration until impact right there. And Ali continues to move to the right. And you'll see Earnie is able to land another hook, despite his knee being turned in somewhat. It's not turned in that much. However, Ali moving certainly allows Earnie to land another shot very comfortably. We'll see it again right here. Big hook, reset. His knee does come back more forward again, and he throws another hook. More like rear hook mechanics on the second one. Here's another big right hand from Earnie, and you're going to see all the things I talk about. In the Ali fight, it was mostly a lot of right hands. Ali was dancing around a lot, and Earnie was able to avoid some of Ali's shots and close the gap a bunch of times, but no real huge like uppercuts and hooks that we saw against Norton, for example, because Norton was quite hurt against Shavers, and Shavers was able to open up against him. But here we have a nice big right hand. You'll see Ernie's weight come down and then push off. Of course, stretching all the chains and getting everything in motion to launch that right hand, which lands quite well. We'll take another look at it. Weight comes down. He explodes off of that right foot, pushes his hips into rotation, and then everything else follows. Here I have some clips going in progressively more slower and slower motion to show you the chain of events. And you can see it really well this way when it goes from fast to slow. You might want to watch this a couple of times. It just gives you a good idea of the series of events, the chain of events that I talk about, the sequence of accelerating stretch shortening cycles, which is a very important concept to apply to your punches if you want to be able to punch with this kind of power. Let's take a look at this punch from Earnie that may have put Ali down. And you're going to see it follows the same pattern that I talk about. Load, explode, accelerate, follow through. You're going to see Ernie's weight come down while his arm stays relaxed. And then he pushes off, and there's a cascade of action, a cascade of movement, hips, torso, arm, that his body follows until what looks like is an impact on Ali's chin. So you're going to see Ernie's weight come down. His arm is relaxed. Right here, he begins pushing off, turning his body. His arm follows, accelerating until right about there. I mean, that could be potential impact. This is really the only view we see. You can see Ali's head moves slightly after that. It could be him just avoiding the punch. But then he goes down right afterwards. His legs are not really in the best position to balance his entire body. That may be a factor. But that's really the only view that we have, unfortunately. Yeah, that looks like it. In fast speed, it looks like it misses. Yeah, probably a good call by the ref. All right, guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or requests, please leave them down below. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to maximize your own punching power with a system that I guarantee will work for you, check out my program, The Power Punching Blueprint, available at howtopunchharder.com. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.